all the way back in 1991, a new team joined the Formula 1 grid by the name of Jordan. They competed until 2005 when the team was renamed to Midland F1, then Spiker F1, before being renamed Force India in 2008. They would continue to race as Force India until 2018, when they would once again be renamed, this time to Racing Point Force India, but this would last just a single season. For 2019 they would simply be called Racing Point, before their owner Lawrence Stroll acquired a stake in Aston Martin, resulting in their final rebrand into the current Aston Martin team that race today. The Racing Point team would compete in 38 races, securing 1 pole position from Lance Stroll in Turkey, 4 podiums and an infamous race win from Sergio Perez at the Sakir Grand Prix. Now during their very short time as Racing Point, they had arguably the biggest F1 controversy in the recent years, with their resemblance to the 2019 championship winning Mercedes car. This resulted in the team being fined €400,000 and had 15 constructors points deducted, which would have seen the team finishing in 3rd place ahead of McLaren. But after changing to Aston Martin in 2020, their results have been pretty lackluster since. So I asked the question, if Racing Point were to return as their own team, would they be more successful? Now this isn't possible to see in real life, but I can make it happen in the Formula 1 game. So I loaded up a brand new MyTeam save using this incredibly accurate Racing Point livery and simulated through the next 10 seasons to see the results. Now for the first season, the Racing Point team will utilise the Aston Martin Driver Academy, signing Felipe Drugovich and Jack Crawford, with Jessica Hawkins being signed as a reserve driver. The 2024 Formula 1 season ends with McLaren winning the Constructors' title for the first time in over 20 years, with the reigning Red Bull team finishing as runners-up ahead of Ferrari. The returning Racing Point struggle in their return season with a P10 finish only ahead of the Kick Sauber team. Both Racing Point drivers failed to score any points in their debut season, with Jack Crawford finishing in last place, while Felipe Drugovich finishes in P17. The Drivers' Championship is pretty similar to real life season, with the bronze medal going to the Ferrari driver of Charles Leclerc, who finishes just over 70 points behind the runner-up of Max Verstappen. This allows a brand new world champion with Lando Norris winning the title by just a single point. Throughout the season, Lando would stand on the top step of the podium a total of 7 times, while Max Verstappen would go on to win a total of 5 races. Charles Leclerc would finish the season with a couple of race wins, with his teammate Carlos Sainz as well as George Russell both winning just a single race each. Now the driver market will see a lot of changes after Kevin Magnussen retires, allowing Sergio Perez to move to Haas. The reigning champion Lando Norris then moves to his direct rivals to drive for Red Bull, while Esteban Ocon moves into the championship winning McLaren seat. Logan Sargent will remain in the sport by moving to Alpine, with the other Alpine driver of Pierre Gasly moving the other way. Zhou Guanyu will be the partner of Sargent at Alpine, with the Kick Sauber team bringing in Théo Pourchaire for his debut season. Racing Point will make a small change, with Felipe Drugovich being replaced by Jess Hawkins to make her the first woman in Formula 1 since 1992. Now both the aerodynamics and powertrain departments will face regulation changes going into next season. Despite having the reigning Drivers' Champion, Red Bull dropped down to 4th. The reigning Constructors' Champions McLaren will fall to 2nd, allowing Ferrari to jump to 1st and win the title. The less said about the Racing Point team the better, falling to P11, with both drivers finishing in P20 and P21. Last season's champion Lando Norris falls all the way down to P9 in his new Red Bull car, with his teammate of Max Verstappen only being able to reach P5. 3rd place this season will go to Norris's former teammate of Oscar Piastri, who finishes just 2 points behind the Mercedes driver of George Russell. This means there will be a brand new Drivers' Champion, with the Ferrari driver of Charles Leclerc having an incredible season to take his first Drivers' Championship. In fact, he took 10 race wins out of 16 on his way to glory, while his teammate continues to win just once. Oscar Piastri took 3 race wins, with Verstappen still managing to win despite his lackluster position. Both Racing Point drivers will be changed at the end of the season, with Felipe Drugovich returning for Jess Hawkins and Sergio Perez replacing Jack Crawford for a return to pink. Yuki Tsunoda moves into the open Haas seat, with Jack Crawford remaining in Formula 1 after making a move to the Racing Bulls. His new teammate Daniel Ricciardo will no longer be in Formula 1 after deciding to retire, with Dennis Hauger being brought in as his replacement. The top of the Constructors' Championship changes once again, with the Season 1 winners McLaren returning to the top, ahead of Red Bull and Mercedes. Racing Point also make an improvement as they move up to P9, still failing to score any points. Sergio Perez moves up to 18th, while Felipe Drugovich records the team's highest finish since their return with a P16. Esteban Ocon enters the top 3 for the first time, finishing just a single point behind his teammate Oscar Piastri. And for a 3rd season in a row, we have a brand new world champion, as George Russell will take his first ever title. The title fight was actually incredibly close, with just 16 points separated in the top 4. Race wins were also shared pretty equally, with Piastri winning the most at 4. Both George Russell and Esteban Ocon would win 3 races each, Verstappen and Leclerc would win twice, while Norris wins his first race at Red Bull and Hamilton returns to winning ways. Just some small driver changes this season, with Fernando Alonso finally calling it a day and retiring, with Zhou Guanyu making the move to Aston Martin, while Dennis Hauger makes his move to Alpine. Despite the lack of moves, there will be some big changes to the regulations, with all the performance departments being affected. The changes do provide different and new champions in the constructors as Mercedes rise to the top, with McLaren, Red Bull and Ferrari following up. Racing Point continue to improve, finishing this season in P7, with Sergio Perez rising to P13, while Drogovic improves a single position to P15, but neither driver has scored any points. The Drivers' Championship sees Oscar Piastri finishing in third place behind both Mercedes drivers. The 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton will finish as a runner-up, behind his teammate as George Russell wins back-to-back Drivers' Championships. Russell would take a total of 7 race wins this season, with Hamilton managing to take 3 wins himself. Both Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz would win 2 races each, with both Red Bull drivers winning just the once. And at the end of the 4th season, Sergio Perez will be the latest driver to retire, with the Racing Point team bringing in Lance Stroll back to the team in pink. Logan Sargent makes a move from Alpine to Aston Martin, with Oliver Behrman making his debut next season with the Alpine team. And the only department not affected last year would be the durability department, but that will face changes this season. Hitting the halfway mark of this simulation, and McLaren will return to the top of the Constructors' Championship, with Mercedes finishing behind them but still ahead of Red Bull. Racing Point drop a position in the championship, finishing in P8, but after 5 seasons the returning team is still pointless, with both Drogovic and Stroll finishing in P15 and P17 without scoring any points. Moving over to the Drivers' Championship, and 3rd place will go to the McLaren driver of Esteban Ocon, who finishes just 8 points behind the runner-up of George Russell, who fails to secure a 3rd consecutive championship. The championship this season will instead go to another brand new champion, as the strong McLaren performance from Oscar Piastri secures him the title. His 6 race wins would take him to the top, with his teammate Ocon just winning once. The former champion of George Russell would take 2 race wins, with none other than Pierre Gasly returning to the top step after taking the win at Vegas. Now, after failing to reach the heights of a Drivers' Championship, Esteban Ocon will be the next driver to retire, with Lance Stroll leaving Racing Point to drive for the championship winning car. Zhou Guanyu was selected to be his replacement, with Enzo Fittipaldi being brought in by Aston Martin to make his debut. There will be 2 departments seeing regulation changes this year, with aerodynamics and powertrain both being hit for Season 6. The small regulation changes wouldn't affect the top of the championship, however Ferrari returned to the runners-up position, overtaking both Mercedes and Red Bull Racing. The Racing Point team will remain in P8, but will finally score their first points, with both drivers securing a single point each, showing some potential for future seasons. Charles Leclerc would win the Drivers' Championship all the way back in Season 2, but hasn't been in the top 3 since, until this season where he finishes in 3rd place. The 2-time champion George Russell remains in P2, behind the reigning and now back-to-back champion of Oscar Piastri. Wins were more varied this season, with the top 2 drivers of Piastri and Russell both winning 3 times, with both Ferrari drivers winning races alongside a new race winner as Lance Stroll wins in his new McLaren. Now, after finishing runners-up in consecutive seasons, George Russell is set to retire, with none other than Oscar Piastri moving to Mercedes as his replacement. Jack Doohan is set to make his Formula 1 debut next season, driving for the reigning champions of McLaren. Enzo Fittipaldi is dropped by Aston Martin, with the team re-signing Guanyu Zhou away from us. Racing Point will once again need to sign a new driver, this time opting for a rookie, with Ayumu Iwasa making his debut next season. For the first time since Season 2, the Ferrari team returned to the top of the Constructors' Championship, beating out McLaren and Mercedes. Racing Point continues to make improvements, this season securing a total of 4 points to finish as high as P7. Drogovic and Iwasa will combine to take P12 and P13 in the Drivers' Championship, securing the team's highest position in the simulation so far. Someone who has been pretty quiet all video is Carlos Sainz, who will manage to take a 3rd place in Season 7. The newest race winner of Lance Stroll then finishes as the runner-up, behind a returning champion as Charles Leclerc takes his Ferrari to the very top. He would take a total of 6 race wins this season, with his teammates failing to win a race. Lance Stroll in 2nd place will take 3 race wins, while Oscar Piastri takes a single race win in his new Mercedes. The driver market sees a shake-up after McLaren decide to drop Jack Doohan from their driver lineup and replace him with the experienced race winner of Pierre Gasly. Ayumu Iwasa is poached by Williams, with Racing Point retaliating by signing their other driver, Alex Albon. Williams will then bring back Enzo Fittipaldi to race next season. Alongside this, the chassis, powertrain and durability departments will all face regulation changes for next year. Despite the major regulation changes, Ferrari managed to retain their Constructors' Championship, finishing this season with a 38-point gap to Mercedes. Racing Point were improving, but drop a position this season with a P8 finish. Felipe Drugovich is the team's only point scorer, finishing in P14 after scoring 1 point, while Alex Albon doesn't score any points, finishing in P16. Carlos Sainz manages to secure back-to-back third places, this season finishing just 1 place behind his teammate as Charles Leclerc fails to retain his title. But winning the Drivers' Championship will be the returning champion as Oscar Piastri wins another title, this time with a different team. Much like Leclerc last year, Piastri would take the title after winning 6 races, with Leclerc himself only managing to win twice. The other races were shared between the McLaren drivers, with both Lance Stroll and Pierre Gasly both winning just a single race. Just a couple driver moves at the end of the season as Carlos Sainz retires after failing to make a big impact. Yuki Tsunoda has been at Haas since the end of season 2, but will now move to the successful Ferrari team, with Jack Doohan returning to drive for Haas. Heading into the penultimate season, and McLaren are able to return to winning ways, taking the Constructors' Championship, overtaking Ferrari, who actually dropped down to P4. The Racing Point team recorded their highest finish in the simulation, scoring a whopping 35 points, to finish in P6. Felipe Drugovich did most of the heavy lifting, scoring 31 points to finish in P11, while Alex Albon finishes down in P14. Charles Leclerc isn't able to return to the top as he drops down to P4, behind the Red Bull driver of Max Verstappen, who returns to finish in 3rd place. Reigning champion Oscar Piastri drops down to 2nd place, with another brand new champion coming in the form of Pierre Gasly. The McLaren driver would take a total of 3 race wins with a 15-point lead over Piastri. Piastri himself would only take 2 race wins, much like Max Verstappen, while Charles Leclerc, Lance Stroll and the newest race winner Ayumu Iwasa would all win just once. Now once again barely any driver moves this season, with Alex Albon retiring just before the final season. Racing Point tried to capitalise on their recent progression, signing former race winner and champion Lando Norris to try and get the best results they can. This leaves Red Bull with an open seat, which they give to Zane Maloney, allowing him to debut in F1 before this simulation ends. Going into the final season with Maloney will also be some regulation changes, with both the aerodynamics and durability departments being hit. We head into the final season with the same champions we started with as McLaren win the Constructors' title in Season 10. Now they finished over 50 points ahead of runners-up Mercedes, with Red Bull in 3rd and Racing Point recording their best finish in the simulation, also matching their best season in real life with a P4. Signing Lando Norris would be the key to their success as he would become their latest race winner, but also score 113 points to finish in P5, while Felipe Drugovich scored 47 to finish not far behind in P7. 3rd place in the final season will once again be Max Verstappen, completing back-to-back bronze medals. Last season's champion Pierre Gasly falls 15 points short on retaining his title, with the Mercedes driver of Oscar Piastri returning to championship gold. Piastri managed to take 4 race wins on his way to the title, with Gasly just short at 3. Lance Stroll managed 2 race wins, with Lando Norris of course picking up his race win. So there you have it, 10 seasons of Formula 1 simulated with the Racing Point F1 team being brought back into the sport. Now let's take a look at the numbers for the 10 seasons as a whole to see who performed the best. Now first, let's have a look at the Constructors' Championship. Now this simulation provided 3 different champions, with McLaren winning the most at 6, Ferrari winning a total of 3, and Mercedes winning just the once. There was more variety in the Drivers' Championship with 5 winners in 10 seasons. Oscar Piastri would win the most with 4 titles, with George Russell and Charles Leclerc both winning 2 titles each. Both Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly would also win a title, both while driving for McLaren. Now this simulation also provided a total of 11 different race winners, with Ayumu Iwasa at the bottom with just a single win. Lewis Hamilton is next with a total of 4 race wins, with Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz both winning 6 times. Gasly and Stroll would be tied with 8 race wins, while Lando Norris is ahead with 10. Max Verstappen went on to win 12 races, with George Russell winning 16 races for his 2 titles. Charles Leclerc is next after he won 24 races, not too far behind the driver with the most wins across the 10 seasons, Oscar Piastri, who finishes with 29. But that is going to wrap up today's video. Now I hope you enjoyed. Now make sure to drop a like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe while you're at it. YouTube says that only 13% of my viewers are actually subscribed to my channel. Please subscribe as it really helps me out. There'll be lots of links to my various social media pages down below, including Twitter, Instagram and my Discord server, which is the easiest way to suggest new videos you want me to do. But that is going to be all from me today, so have a good day, evening or night wherever you are, and goodbye.